Okay, we'll give folks maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to tune in, and then we'll get started. Okay, well, looks like we have a very global audience today, which is very exciting, and have a very, very special guest. I won't spoil anything. I will let Sima, who is the co-founder and CEO of Creative Juice, reveal a lot about the company, a very exciting company. And thank you all for tuning in. I know Sima's personally in San Francisco. I'm in New York, and we have a lot of folks all across the world. So it's very cool. And I think we'll learn more today about things like this, that you provide the opportunity for anyone to tune in globally. And then I think the business which Creative Juice is working on as well is helping people globally, specifically creators, launch and grow businesses too. So Sima, thank you so much for coming on to Doola Masterclass. And I'll start with a question which you probably get millions of times as a founder, and that is, what is Creative Juice? And could you just share a little bit about the company and yourself?
Yeah, of course. So let me start with myself, and then I'll back into what Creative Juice is. So I spent the last 20 years of my career in financial services, working at big credit card companies like American Express, the government, like the U.S. Department of Treasury, and then most recently at a fintech company in San Francisco called Plaid. And throughout the whole time, what I've really tried to do is build better financial services for people. And depending on where you are in your world, your financial services look very different. But ultimately, what I believe people should have access to is something that's very transparent, built for them, very fair, and that understands who they are. And last year, when I started learning about the creator economy and creators, and I define creators as people who are producing content online and ultimately running businesses, have the potential to run a business doing this full time. I realized that a lot of their financial services were kind of broken. A lot of traditional banks don't understand what creators do. If you say you're a YouTuber, they say, what? You want a loan? What? You just make YouTube videos? Or you're an Instagrammer, an influencer? They say, what? You just take pictures with, different types of ice cream? Like, what's up with that? And so we tried to build what Creative Juice is a business banking account and platform that helps creators run their business. So you can have your bank account connected to your invoicing, connected to your social media metrics. So you have everything in one spot that helps you understand how to grow. We started Creative Juice at the beginning of this year, and we've kind of just come out of beta recently, and really excited to be serving customers and helping solve some of their pain points.
I love that. One question I want to ask, and you defined it here, but I think it's something which I would love for you to define again. Could you define a creator? What does that mean? Who is a creator? And how can one think of what it means to be a creator today and what the creator economy means too?
Yeah. So I think the creative economy is just like more broadly, something that is horizontal. It touches every single vertical. Creators can be fitness creators. Creators can be folks that are actually, in the entertainment space. They can be journalists. They can be so many different types of things. And so the creator economy really has the potential to disrupt our global economy. Like every individual can be a creator in a different type of space, and you can be on different mediums, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Patreon. And there's so many different ways and platforms to help people make a living doing this. And so, what I define a creator as is someone who is online and creating digital content. And that definition broadens though, because that content can actually be leveraged for different types of things on their business. For example, you may be making YouTube videos. Mr. Beast is a great example of this, big creator. And he also has merchandising that he sells and different business lines that he builds around him. But ultimately where it starts with is digital content. And then that can be leveraged for different types of things, whether it's a restaurant, again, fitness classes, clothing lines or whatnot.
Very cool. I know I've personally heard of Mr. Beast. He recently did a Squid Games remake. I haven't seen the show Squid Games, but pretty incredible that a creator can take a massive show which had a massive budget to produce and in a span of days create something that racks up just as many views. Something I've heard
I think it was
about
more views, if I'm remembering correctly.
More views,
actually, yeah.
Really that speaks to I guess the creator economy and I guess creators in general, the power and influence one can have. Something interesting I've heard about Creative Juice. What are juice funds and what kind of creators do you support with juice funds and as a company as a whole?
So, juice funds is basically folks that are we're investing into businesses. So, we believe creators are businesses. They have the opportunity to, be a business just like any other business on a retail presence, right? But a lot of times today, creators aren't recognized as the businesses that they can be. And so we invest in them. We give them money up front. We do a rev share with them and participate with them. And we actually grow with them. So we have a couple of creators that we're actually investing soon and announcing soon the investments that we made in. And it's really cool. You'll see that they're global, not just in the US, and they also span so many different types of content categories. So yes, do think of juice funds as the new way of getting financing as a creator. There are requirements. We do require that you've been in the space for at least 6 months, ideally on YouTube and growing quickly. And we want to make sure that you have the capital up front to be able to grow as quickly and realize your business potential.
Not gonna lie, this sounds pretty sweet. If you're a creator, you have a growing business, you can work with Creative Juice, and not only is there a platform to sort of, the financial services y'all offer, but also there's a chance to receive investment. Zooming back, let's say I'm someone listening and I'm a current creator or an aspiring creator. How can someone turn that interest or that hobby or passion into a business? And what are the opportunities that business might present to them?
That's a really great question. I think the number one thing is just get started. If you have a passion and you are excited about creating content online, just get started. A lot of people ask me, well, I don't know if my passion is the one thing that's going to make money. Maybe I should do something that focuses on, actually maximizing my monetary potential. And what I'd say to that is the creators have uniformly seen across the board in whatever category succeed are really those that are focused on realizing their passion. And so whether your passion is, knitting or if it's food or whatever it is, think about how to translate that into entertaining content that really expresses yourself. Just keep making the content. I think a lot of folks start thinking about building followership on TikTok and they move to Instagram and then ultimately YouTube, which is, the highest monetizing platform. I think you can start on YouTube with YouTube Shorts and you can kind of figure out where you want to go from there. But the number one thing is just get started. And as you get started, think about how you build engagement with your followers, because ultimately those are the people that are going to help you grow and make that into a business. And you can think about how you monetize your followers. And so, your content can then turn into merchandising, affiliate revenue, and different types of things. The number one thing is really be genuine to who you are and follow your passion.
Sometimes one of my favorite sayings is perfection is the enemy of progress. And I think that's sort of parallel to just get started. It's not going to be perfect, but the only way you're going to learn is to do things. I actually have a follow-up question to something you mentioned. You mentioned a lot of folks start with TikTok and maybe go to Instagram and then go to YouTube. Could you share more about that trajectory? Is that something you see most people doing today? Is that what you would recommend to an aspiring creator?
Yeah, it's the new trend. I think a lot of people are finding that they can go viral on TikTok and build followers. And then what they try to do is take that followership, move it over onto Instagram, and then finally onto YouTube. It's definitely a trend that I see. But what I'd say is, again, follow the passion that you have. And if you're excited about YouTube or different platforms, start there. Each of the platforms are doing so much to make it easier for you to enter into, wherever you choose. So if you're on YouTube and you're excited about shorts, which is kind of like TikTok, go ahead, start there, right? Just think about where you're monetizing, and then think about how you can cultivate that relationship with your audience as well. So if you're building a really deep base on YouTube, you may actually want to think about how you, for example, monetize some of them on Patreon and create specific content on that platform. So it's really specific to what you're doing and the type of business that you're building, as well as your content. But ultimately, what's really cool about today versus even just 3 years ago is that there's so many more platforms for you to choose from as a creator that you can really go in a lot of different ways.
I asked that question because I know there's people out there who are aspiring creators, but also, as our company, we're looking to beef up our content game as well. So I think we have a little strategy or plan there. It sounds like start with some TikTok, get some followers, and then move over to Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, that's right. You got it. I mean, for you guys, TikTok, it's interesting. Like TikTok may be the place for you to be because it is so global and the followership. You may not need to go to YouTube ultimately, which is more longer form content traditionally. So I definitely start at TikTok. Although, I'd say Instagram has more businesses on it than TikTok. So if you're thinking about folks that want to start LLCs in the US, you might actually be thinking about Instagram just because that's where a lot more of your followers are going to be. Whereas TikTok, I think, has a really high percentage of hobbyists and folks that may not necessarily be looking to monetize, but just having fun. So one thing to think about.
Very interesting, and personally, but I know for everyone listening too. Let's actually, as a follow-up to that, someone's going along, they have maybe a little or a big TikTok channel, like they see the signs that something's working here as a creator. How do you think about when creators should actually register themselves or what they're doing as a company? And if so, how should they navigate that decision, whether it's an LLC versus an S corp versus a sole proprietorship versus doing nothing at all? It can be quite confusing. What have you recommended to creators?
It's a really great question. We actually have a blog post. You can check out our website, getjuice.com/blog. And there's a whole piece written specifically about this. Like, should you be an LLC? Should you be an S corp? What should you exactly do? And high level, what I'd say is, like, if you're starting to put money into what you're doing and starting to make some money, separate your personal from your business expenses, because at the end of the day, those are deductible. And even if it doesn't turn into the thing that you're going to do for a full-time job, you can still deduct those expenses. And what kind of messes people up at the end of the year is if you don't separate those expenses, it's to convince the IRS that those were actually legitimately, a business that you were going after, and you were investing in it, which is exactly what you may be doing. And so, just think about separating that. And it's if you're starting to make more than $500 a month, you may want to think about being an LLC, because you are, you want to protect yourself from a liability perspective. And so you want to create a separate entity, and it also further legitimizes the fact that it's a separate business than what you are. But until then, you can also just be a sole prop, right? And our platform supports sole proprietors. I would say, though, that if you're an international creator, you do have to have an LLC to be on our platform. And so you may, if you're an international creator, want to just move forward with being an LLC. And if you're an international creator, you may ask, well, what about me? Why would I do it? And I'd say if you're in the US or in Canada and you're doing a lot of business, being an LLC in the US and having a US bank account may just make it easier for you to do business, because you can just move money easily with different counterparts in the US. So obviously that assumes that you're doing a lot of business in the US or in Canada. And ideally, you're saving money on foreign exchange fees, because as opposed to paying foreign exchange fees for every transaction, you can just do your business in the US and every so often do a lump sum transfer to your home banking account as needed. So just some things to think about is, how do you be more efficient and make it easier to do business with yourself, especially if you're a creator and you're starting to do brand deals or other types of engagements with US companies.
Wow, that was extremely comprehensive. If I had to summarize, I would say whether you're a creator in the US or international, sounds like some of the biggest benefits of actually forming that entity are one, at a certain point, you're making revenue and things can be tax deductible. Two, having access to US banking, US financial infrastructure payments can make things easier just when you're working with the US or selling to the US. Three, I think you made a really valid point around separating personal from business. Again, even if the business doesn't take off when it becomes massive, you have that separation. And if things do go well, you don't get into this can of worms where you're justifying to the IRS or some tax authority that, hey, this was a business expense, but I just used my personal card for that. Maybe one question here as a follow-up is, what would you say is the right time to actually do it? You mentioned if you're making a certain amount of revenue, but do you advise folks, hey, forming the business is a good way to, force yourself to commit to doing the venture? It's a way to sort of force yourself to get started? Or based on what you've seen from the creators you've worked with, is it usually a time when, hey, revenue starts coming in? That's typically when people will make that decision to form the entity.
I would say there's no harm in setting up a business bank account, especially if you're on something like Creative Juice where they're not charging you minimums, right? But I'd be thoughtful about where you choose to set up your bank account. What you don't want to be in a situation is where you're required to keep, a certain amount of money every month. And then if you don't, then you get fined. Like that's not a very healthy situation. I generally say the moment you're starting to get serious about it, go ahead and separate your business and your personal expenses, because even things like lunches that you're having, around the business or meetings that you're taking or the computer that you're buying and the camera that you're investing in, those are all expenses that you can actually deduct, especially if you're starting to make money back from the platforms or doing brand deals. So separate them so it gets easier. The challenge I've seen is not only on top of if you get audited by the IRS, but also it takes hours and hours and hours at the end of the year if you haven't actually been good about separating it, to go through and be like, oh, that was personal, that was business, personal, business, and it's a nightmare. So just the end of the year is coming up. Think about 2022 as a fresh slate. Open up a separate account, just get started, be clean about it. And so it just makes the administration part of running your business a lot simpler. So if you're in the US, be a sole prop, just go ahead and open a business bank account. Easy to do online here. I think if you're international, you probably do have to think a little bit more about whether it's worth creating an LLC, because it does cost money to do that. And I'd say if you're internationally creating, you're doing business in the US and you're getting brand deals, then it's definitely something to be thinking about, because you can ultimately save money on the foreign exchange fees, and just make it easier for you to do business with different counterparts here. So obviously you have to do what works best for you, but definitely something to be thinking about. And regardless, like definitely separate your personal and your business expenses, like right off the bat.
You mentioned taxes. That's something which for many folks, even before they start a business, can be something which is honestly, terrifying, but also a major obstacle to even getting started, for better or for worse, because you can think of it as, hey, it's a good problem to have. The business is growing. I have to deal with taxes. But for many folks, it's, hey, I don't know what to do here. I probably shouldn't do this. Does Creative Juice help creators with their taxes? And obviously, I know you're not a tax professional or a CPA, but generally speaking, and I know CPAs do not like to use the word generally too, but how have you seen creators or YouTubers file their taxes? And maybe what are some of the things that they should just keep in mind?
Yeah. So yeah, this is not tax advice. But what I'd say is, look, the first thing that you can do is just separate your personal from your business expenses. It's going to make your life so much easier. And especially if you're just a sole prop and you don't necessarily have an LLC, like you can actually just file it on the same tax return, like super streamlined, straightforward. Will save yourself a lot of headache. I think if you're an LLC or an S corp and you've got some other schedules that you've got to do, an LLC is actually still pretty straightforward. You can still file it as part of your return because it's a look-through entity. So pretty simple there. It gets a little bit more complicated when you have an S corp and a C corp, and you definitely will need an accountant to help you do all of that. We've heard feedback that getting help with the taxes would be helpful, and so that's something we're definitely thinking about and want to be mindful of. From an international perspective, I'd say, if you're opening a US LLC and you're starting to do business here, think about what the tax treaties say between your country and the US and how to think about minimizing your taxes there. Generally, it's not really fair for folks to pay taxes in both countries. And so a lot of countries have reciprocal agreements there. And so just make sure, do a quick Google search, just make sure you have some familiarity with it. I know it can feel very overwhelming and complicated because, well, it is, but the more information you have, the more prepared you'll be. And, I think, again, though, separating your personal and your business expenses is just really important for all of that and making it as simple as possible.
It sounds like, again, separating personal from business. That's one of for pretty much all these things, but it really sounds like that simple step there. And again, platforms like, like Creative Juice and obviously what we're working on too. And I think many other companies out there today are trying to make that easier for folks to, click button and have it taken care of. But yeah, for everyone listening, really, I think separating personal from business can save you hours of time and sounds like lots of money down the line as well.
Yeah, I'd say, there's something really interesting happening, which is businesses are now individuals. And I think we're starting to think about things in a different way, which is you don't have to be a crazy corporation to go get, a separate business bank account or, think about yourself as a different entity. Like you as an individual are a business, you can be a business. And so just think about yourselves, you're obviously one person if you're a creator who's monetizing, but you got to think about yourself and what you're doing as two different types of activities. One, which is just the life that you're living. And the second is really related to your business expenses.
I love that advice there. On the topic of advice, actually, there are many folks out here who are maybe creators in their own right. Sure, creating digital content or YouTube is maybe what a lot of people think of as a creator, but I think anyone starting a company is doing some form of creation. What would you say from the creators you've worked with, and we can focus on, creating digital content? What are the biggest challenges faced by creators?
Yeah, I think, some of it I've heard from creators is that they feel lonely. That's part of Creative Juice is we're trying to really help you feel like you've got someone who's in it with you and help you out there. But it can feel lonely. It can feel like it's a black box around what you're trying to do. And, this is probably true of any person who's starting a business, right? Is that it feels lonely. No one really understands what you're trying to do. You've got to just kind of stick with it. And finally, what we really hear is want to grow, right? You want to figure out how to grow and find your stride. And what I'd say to that one is just, you got to stick with it. You got to just keep trying and going and learning. Like no one hits it overnight, really, right? Like it may be there are a couple stories here and there, but most of it is people who are working really hard, staying dedicated to their message, building loyalty with their followership. It is a job. It's work. It's not easy to consistently post like that. And in that spirit, what I'd say is like really, it's about consistency. It's not frequency. Play the long game. You've got to stay fresh and mentally healthy and stay creative, because that's ultimately what you're trying to build here. So just take it easy a little bit, like give yourself a break, but just stay in the game. Have fun doing it.
You mentioned that part of what y'all are doing is trying to help people feel less lonely and find that support. What are some ways that people can find support, whether it's through y'all and things y'all are building, communities or resources, or I don't know, maybe other networks out there that for aspiring creators to become part of?
Yeah. Well, I think like, first of all, just by coming on board, we really supported creators, in reaching out to them and being available for them. And we'll be doing some different things next year as well. So stay tuned for that. But a simple thing to do is you can join our Discord and find other creators who are like-minded and want to just grow their business and want to understand what it means to do this for a living and make it a significant part of their life. So that's one place. And, the other piece of it is, we're built for you as a creator. So, you're understood. Like we're not questioning what you're doing. We see the legitimacy in it, and we see the legitimacy in it so much so that we're investing in creators. So, we're really excited to be working with creators and helping them grow. And that's obviously really important to us.
Love that. I'm going to just ask another personal question here, or a curious question I have. How do people, well, let me put it this way. You've probably seen many creators who have put in the consistency, like what you said, it's not just frequency, but consistency. And they do it consistently. And even then, there's no guarantees that it works. And that's a very scary thought of, I'm going to do this every day for a year, for 2 years, and it might not work. And then I'm sure you've seen folks who do it for a week or two, and then they give up or it fizzles out. What would you say is the most common trait or the thing that people did who succeeded or kept consistent did? There's no shortcuts, there's no tricks, but are there any hacks or things that people can do to maximize the chance of success and staying consistent?
I'd say one, it really is follow your passion. Like it just comes through. People who aren't focused on the short term, like, oh, what's my follower count now, or where's this going, but are just really excited and enjoy what they're doing. Like I've just seen it over and over. It just comes through in your content. Like just be excited about what you're doing, have fun, like be passionate about it. And the second I'd say is, it's more about consistency than frequency. So just, stay on your game, be consistent about it. Uh, it doesn't have to be every day. Do what works for you. And that ties into the first point, which is do what works for you, make sure you're happy and enjoying it. And that passion comes through in your content.
Yeah, I guess, again, you said this earlier, but following your passion, it might not lead to a big business there, but I guess the worst thing that happens is you put out great content about something you're passionate about. And again,
yeah, but I see a strong correlation there between, if you're passionate about putting out content you're passionate about, it leads to better things than if you're just trying to find something that you can gamify. I've just seen it so many times. Like the cool thing about social media is it's a global game. And if you are passionate about your content, you're producing really great content, like you will find an audience. And all you need, is, 1,000 followers will pay you $100 to make a more than happy, like great living. So just think about it that way. It's not about necessarily being, the biggest Mr. Beast or whatnot. It's just, it's about creating a life that works for you and doing something you really love doing.
Yeah, a question just came in about someone, if a creator is just starting, should from the get-go they be thinking about the business, or should they let things go by the flow? Actually, maybe on that note, like you brought up something there. If you have 1,000 creators, and maybe that makes it sound overly simplistic, but it's true. 1,000 creators, each paying you $100. That's a good amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, you can even do $50. That's the median income in the US. Like it's yeah.
Yeah, but I guess on that note, yeah. Obviously, people maybe have aspirations, or they do. Hey, I want to turn this into a business. Do you think it's important to, or at what point to really think about, hey, like here's my business model, here's how I'm going to monetize? You mentioned affiliate partnerships, you mentioned other revenue streams, or is it more, get the content out there, get things going, and those things will naturally follow?
I think you have to be deliberate about it, but in terms of order of priorities, number one, just start making content. Separate your business and your personal expenses so you can get your tax deductions on the cameras and all the other equipment that you're making, and also write off the income that you are making from the platforms. And number two is you start building your followership and your engagement. Like you should be thoughtful about how you're going to monetize that, for sure. I would say don't just kind of ride along, right? Like definitely be specific about what you want to do. But the number one thing is set yourself up for success. Separate your expenses. Start making content. If you're on our platform, you'll see metrics. We'll give you metrics that you can start tracking as you think about your growth across platforms. So you have a high level view of what's going on. And then I think, be deliberate about when you're building that follower base, and then you can start monetizing, whether it's merchandising, affiliate revenue, consulting work. I think you do have to be deliberate about it. Like, for example, on brand deals. Yeah, I think a lot of folks will be like, oh, when a brand's going to reach out to me to work with me? And it's like, well, actually, like you should reach out to a brand that you're excited about and like be proactive about it, right? Take control of your business destiny.
Yeah, no, I think that's good advice for anything, just to be very intentional and be deliberate. And then, yeah, like obviously there's going to be times I think when, luck strikes, but I think you can make yourself lucky. It's like, the odds of getting struck by lightning are very low, but if you run around with a 20-foot metal pole, the odds go up. So how do you run around with that pole and put yourself out there as much as possible?
Yeah, that's a great image.
So separate personal from business, run around with a 20-foot pole, and be deliberate.
Yeah.
You do those things, things will go well.
Run towards the storm. Yeah.
Run towards the storm, I have the hurricane. I think folks are going to be popping questions, or feel free to. I actually have just a couple of questions I'm going to ask now. Let's say, or maybe you actually are doing this now. If you were to be a full-time creator, is there, what content would you personally put out? Maybe you're actually doing this now and you want to share it with folks. But yeah, let's say you were joining Creative Juice and you were starting. What content would you be putting out?
I'd probably do cooking videos on different types of food, on Indian food. Just try to, show people how to make things that you can't necessarily get in restaurants. There's a really great channel, made with Randy. They do Chinese food, and it's really well done. It's super cool to be able to get access to recipes and food and stories that you just wouldn't otherwise get at a restaurant. It feels very homey, and I'd love to do something similar to that.
Cool. And I guess would you maybe follow the TikTok, Instagram, YouTube approach, or what channel would you potentially start on?
Great question. I probably make long form content on YouTube, but do little slices for TikTok and pictures on Instagram.
Okay, very cool. Well, I know obviously you've got your hands full with the business, but I wouldn't put it past you if at some point in the future we see a TikTok or some channel coming out with the secret Indian recipes. Awesome. Cool. Well, look, I think feel free to pop messages in here. I think also though, I mean, actually, maybe you can just how can folks reach out to you, to the company, if they have questions? We're obviously going to be sharing this later too, but what's the best way to learn more about Creative Juice and then also get in touch with questions, maybe even sign up as well? How can folks do that?
Yeah, just go to our site, getjuice.com, check it out, log in. There's a chat bot there where you can ping us and email us directly. You can also ping us at hi@getjuice.com, and we check our email there. Follow us on social media, Twitter @getjuice, TikTok @get.juice. So, just check us out in these different places, and we'd love to support you as you think about your creator presence and business.
Awesome. One more question actually just came in. Maybe we can we'll finish off with this, and by the way, we'll be sharing all the links mentioned. The full video will be available to watch later too, in case you didn't have to take notes, but there'll be video shorts, there'll be a video too, so you can follow on. Maybe we'll finish with this. This is another hot trend or hot topic now. Web3, crypto. Does Get Juice support folks working on those types of businesses? Do you work with any creators focusing on crypto? What have you sort of seen there in terms of trends as well?
Yeah, we think it's really important. And so we definitely want to be the bridge to, Web 2 and Web 3. Ooh, I might have dropped out for a second.
Oh, there we go. We're back in. Cool.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that, I think that it's a really great question, and we definitely want to be the bridge from Web 2 to Web 3. And we have a couple of ideas for what we want to do next year, but what's really important to us is to do it in a way that's relevant to the most number of people versus something that's just mostly hype. So email us if you have ideas on what you'd want to see. Hi at Get Juice, drop into our Discord. We really want to hear from you, especially on that point, because there's a lot of different ways in which we can go. And so, yeah, it's definitely relevant. It's something we're thinking about.
Awesome. No, I think that's maybe if you won't even mean to, but I think that's a really good piece of advice or focus there around. There are many things anyone can do to generate hype. Maybe Creative Juice would get juiced as like an NFT drop. Okay, cool. That would generate some hype, but is that helping folks, creators manage their finances, grow their business? Potentially, but maybe it's more hype focused now. So I love that focus there on, hey, we want to do what actually helps people, and maybe that comes along the way later as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You said it. You said it exactly.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Again, we'll drop the social links out. We'll drop the website. We'll have the recording. But yeah, everyone should check out Get Juice. You can go online. You can learn more as well. And again, if everyone's out there, I think the single lesson, I'm going to take this too. There's been some posts I've been putting off. There's some emails I've been putting off. Maybe the videos I've been putting off, but just get started. Record it, put the content out there. So I'm taking that advice to heart as well. Thank you, Sima.
Yeah, and have fun doing it.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.